Let's watch a couple more clips of Marianne, this time in a CNN interview, as she continues her bid to be the hopeful next chair of the DNC, a position that I very much support her for. I've been vocal of this, and I think in this latest interview, she does the best job yet that she has describing what the party needs and why she's the person to get it done.
So we have to change the Democratic Party. If you want a change in the Senate and the House and the White House, then you're going to have a change in the Democratic Party. But we have to transform the party from the inside out. The first thing I would do is go on a listening tour, and I would help reconnect the American people with the practical relevance of politics in their lives. You know, one of the things that the Republicans do much better than the Democrats, but this will change if I'm party chair, is that they maintain close contact with their base. It's amazing how often you talk to Republicans about an issue, and the average Republican seems more informed about the issues that affect their daily lives. Now, even though some of that information is the exact opposite of what Democrats believe, I do not see the equal kind of contact with the Democratic voters.
I mean, this is spot on. Drastic change is needed. It's time we accept that. If we want to contend with the constituency the MAGA base has built, we need to be appealing to my type of voter instead of trying to push them out of the party. Young, not a fan of this corporate brand of politics, anti-war, pro-worker, and instead, the party has leaned away from that and into the corporate side of the wing, which is why we've lost constituency from 2020 to 2024, thinking, their better stance on social issues will be enough, but clearly it's not. You need to lean into these things. This is what mobilizes voters, these tabletop issues, feeling like they're not getting enough slice of the pie, and then remind or inform them also the everyday duties the government carries out that allows your life to function, as Republicans are increasingly spreading the idea that the government does nothing for you, and the Democrats, being the only party that want to protect this, are failing to articulate the things it does, from roads to mail to public schools to your grandpa's social security and healthcare. And part of that is contact with voters, the apparatus that Republicans just have a larger reach of on every level: social media, mainstream media, local radio, the streaming industry. And what Democrats first need to focus on is building that these next 4 years, this communications infrastructure that can rival this. And I think Marianne's the perfect person to understand that.
Too often, the DNC talks to voters when there's an election, every 2 years, every 4 years. And a lot of times we're coming across with, give me your money or give me your votes. I want to say to people, what do you need? How can we help? What is it? What are the instruments of government that could be helping you? And we need an information infrastructure, a kind of issues hotline, so that every single day people in America would know, this is what Trump is doing to you. This is what the Democrats are standing for. This is what the Democrats are standing for in the House and in the Senate. This is what Democrats are standing for all over this country. This is its relevance in your experience, and this is how you can participate in turning things around.
And one major reason it feels this way is while Democrats have relied on mainstream media, it's constantly been losing viewership, Republicans in droves have been flooding social medias: Twitch, Kick, Rumble, YouTube, X, Truth Social even. I mean, they have these wealthy influencers who are able to pose as everymen, just regular patriots. Come to find out, most of them are paid, some through Russia, of course, and they're just spreading misinformation at a level that's never really been seen before, when people don't really know how to react yet, as social media is a new forum and there's not any regulations or anything like this yet, right? And what we find out is Elon is also boosting right-wing voices on X, where most people are digesting media, sharing AI altered images of Democrats. Like, at some point, I think we need to come to a consensus that this probably isn't fair. Meanwhile, because no one is watching mainstream media, it feels like these attacks are going unanswered by the Democrats for years until it's election time, and then they're begging for votes. They're scrambling to reach you one way or the other, which is a failure when you objectively have the facts on your side, when people overwhelmingly dislike Trump's actions when informed on them, and overwhelmingly agree with your policies when they're explained to you in a way that aren't partisan. It's all about now communicating that on a level that reaches these voters and effectively combats the misinformation from those who have half the burden of you, admittedly, as they can just lie about any issue.
It would be an entirely different culture and an entirely different way that the Democratic Party would be a keeper of the story, the great story of American possibility. I would make sure that that happens. And I think that kind of energy, that kind of psychological and emotional and even spiritual communication with people is what would help turn things around in a way that it needs to in order to meet the energy and the influence of Donald Trump.
And it would, because you have to think of the psychology at play here. Trump is effective because he first convinces you that the government is inherently against you and inherently ineffective, and then he plays on the emotions that causes, whether it be rage or fear, and that's what mobilizes people into supporting him. So the way to combat that effectively isn't to then meet Trump in the arena where you allow him to set the stage. You attack the framing. The government isn't inherently against you. Private interest in government and those beholden to them are. So that's what we should be attacking, not government. Billionaires in government, like the ones of whom Trump is filling his cabinet with and is enabled by like the Citizens United ruling that conservatives support. So if MAGA is so against this, let's all come together and let's get rid of any politician who supports Citizens United. Let me tell you right now, that's every Republican, Trump included. And let's get rid of any politician that's beholden to private interest. That's going to be every Republican and probably like 90% of Democrats. Democrats support overturning Citizens United, and they are the only party that talk about campaign financing. The government also isn't inherently ineffective. When you have those beholden to private interest trying to have services fail so they can then turn around and say, well, let's privatize them because it would enrich their donors. Of course it's going to be ineffective. So then let's come together and get rid of all of them. Guess what? It's Republicans like Louis DeJoy at the USPS, or how Republicans have been trying with Social Security for 2 decades now. When you have legislators who are willing to play ball, willing to work with the other side and pass legislation, then progress is made. And we know this. This is how we got voting rights for women, the Civil Rights Act for African Americans, various worker protection laws, and the agencies that protect them, like environmental rights, labor rights, right? None of which conservatives could ever tell you how are inherently corrupt, which again destroys their argument. They're not actually building it out. And it's because they're not. People in them are, which is why we go after these people. But the right won't mention that because those people are often on the right. And they're doing these things purposefully to try and then turn around and say we need to take power from them and privatize them so their donors get wealthy. If people understand how the Department of Education ensures a baseline of care for everyone, like those with special needs are kept from being left behind, then maybe they won't be swayed by the idea of school choice, which doesn't guarantee a baseline of care. Also for just like if you can't afford it, right? If they understood how the CFPB operates for less than $1 billion a year and returns over $20 billion a year to consumers that get stolen from them by these financial giants that they can't fight on their own, or corporations who wouldn't even answer them if it was just them, then they wouldn't be swayed by Elon pretending that this needs gutted because it's evil and it's bureaucrats and blah, 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 blah. It's about informing people of this boring stuff that actually has this big effect on their lives, because by not informing them of the boring, mundane stuff, Elon, MAGA, Trump, they're able to kind of like dramatize what these things are, pretend they're evil and against you, just so they can defund them and distract that they're doing this by pointing their finger at these culture war shock topics, right? And if people start realizing that these exact culture war issues, trans kids, immigrant invasions, are being dangled in front of them to keep them distracted from Republicans doing exactly this, then we will be able to effectively push back against them when they try it.
Like and subscribe to me on TikTok instead of him.
Peace.
Well, good. Goodbye.